What's up, everybody? It's your boy Panda Daddy, and today we're on r/ProRevenge because you guys wanted this so bad. You really wanted me to read these stories, so here it is. This type of video, for anybody who doesn't know, is limited commentary, so it's really meant for individuals who want to sleep, eat, play some video games, draw some art, or just want to chill with their favorite panda boy. So, without further ado, let's jump right into these stories! The neighbors ran over our fence. My dad installed a concrete fence that wrecked 8 of their cars. So I saw some of your crazy neighbor stories, and now I bring you my father's that stuck in my memory. English is now my first language, and I hope I don't make any spelling mistakes. We live in a small private neighborhood. The neighbors are related to us, more or less, distant relatives. Everybody here is a complete nut job. They're constantly arguing over decades before me or my brother were even born. Our property line is kind of like a square, and it's surrounded by a road from 2 sides. Keep in mind, on that part of the road, we let our neighbors use 1 square meter of our land so they can use the road safer and not damage our property. This is crucial information. The road is made of gravel. The neighbors want my parents, and only my parents, to pay for the entire cost of the lay of asphalt on the road. My dad and my mother are constantly fixing potholes for 90% of the road, so naturally, our neighbors thought that they would pay for the rest of the asphalt. Classic r/choosing beggars, am I right? Fast forward 20 years, the road remains gravel-ish. Nobody wanted to pay for the asphalt road. One day my neighbors order a massive truck filled with tons of wood. The truck driver runs over our fence, and nobody wanted to pay for the damage. Our fence is made of multiple bushes, trees, and a little bit of metal fence too. These plants are now completely destroyed, and a part of the metal fence is completely bent. We had to replace these plants and place a new metal fence. My father told me this wasn't the first time this happened, but actually the third. I couldn't believe it when I heard this, so this is where the revenge begins. My father is a police officer in the department where they mostly handle frauds, drug busts, etc. He knows the law very well. He dug up the property line marker and placed plastic barrels filled with rocks on our property. In the next 6 hours, 3 of our neighbors came knocking on our door because they hit our plastic barrels filled with rocks. They were angry and wanted to call the cops, but they never did because everybody knew that little part of land was still our property. One neighbor in particular threatened my dad that he would throw a fucking pickaxe at his back. Over one period of a year, these neighbors hit the barrels so much with their cars that the barrels are now worthless. My dad was furious, and he changed his petty revenge into pro-revenge. He cut some wood to use it as a mold. He bought cement, sand, and metal poles. One peaceful afternoon, my father and I cemented the whole part of the land and placed some lovely flowers on top, so when they hit the concrete, they can smell our flowers in victory/defeat. As we expected, 5 neighbors in total wrecked the cars on the new fence, and nobody came knocking at the door. Too long, don't read. Neighbors ran over our fence and didn't want to pay, so my dad installed a better fence that wrecked their cars. Yo, don't steal my uni homework. My GPA at the time was 4.0, and I took a lot of care and work in trying to keep it there. We had a course called Counterpoint, which is basically about the rules and how melodies can interact with each other in a composition. It's super fun to write your own music this way, and I really loved the course. So I worked extra hard on the homework, which was due every other day. It was a huge lecture course, so there was several hundred people in the class each week. Since the homework was due so often, it became popular for a small group of us to sit outside the library after class and share ideas about the assignments. I was getting consistently good marks, and my classmates would ask me for help. I was essentially offering free tutoring. I figured we were all in this together, and eventually karma would reward me. One day the group meet happened late. Instead of meeting after class, we met a day before a large assignment was due to proofread each other's assignments, since this one was more of a project than an exercise. The assignments were nearly complete, and all that was left to do was the final draft. We passed our projects around in a circle, and each person could write notes on the papers. I wrote my thoughts on each assignment, and at the end of the session, my draft didn't come back to me. We were still sitting in a circle and nobody had left. I was confused and asked who was still proofreading my draft. Nobody answered. Everyone smiled. I started to get worried, and finally someone admitted, "You don't really need it, right? Since you always get 100% anyway." Someone in the large group had taken my project, and they were all in on it. I begged the group to return it, but they laughed. I was totally defeated. I couldn't figure out who in a group of 30 people had my piece of paper, and I didn't want to start an actual physical fight. I went home hearing them shout, "Don't worry, bookworm, and we're just trying to fix the curve." I spent an all-nighter redoing my project. The next time there was a large assignment, I found the group outside the library again and hatched a plan. I offered everyone tutoring, but this time for a fee. $10 for proofreading session, and I would not hand out my own papers or tutor in a group setting. My classmates thought this was very funny, and they were surprised I was allowing them to use my proofreading service. They assumed the $10 was a version of revenge. it was not. Most of them signed up for my tutoring to try and let things be in the past, to my delighted surprise. Although it wasn't everyone, I earned close to $300, and on my student budget, it was not yet a professional musician, but it was quite a windfall. You might think that my revenge was to magically disappear everyone's project the way that they did mine. I did not do that. What I did was carefully add a phrase of music with a small mistake in it to each assignment. The same phrase and same mistake copied nearly 30 times. When grading was finished, they did not receive a mark for their projects. They were called out in the class by the professor for cheating. Although the group knew what I did, they never followed up on it. Most of them failed the course for plagiarism, and about half of them decided not to continue the degree. I passed the course and also finished the degree. Too mean? My last roommate was the worst person I ever lived with, and maybe even ever known. He's the son of one of my parents' friends, and he was in the States for school. I had a 2-bedroom apartment at the time and gave him an extra room instead of making it my man cave. For the 6 months he lived with me. Supposed to be longer, but you'll see why. This guy never did any chores, never bought groceries, ate all of my food, even the leftovers from when I go out, always left water running, lights on, and the TV on. He went to class maybe once a week and spent the rest of his time at bars or playing video games. He was a freaking nightmare. One time I came home to the TV on, the lights on, the fridge wide open, and his room was blaring music, but he was nowhere to be found. I thought I'd been robbed at first, or a bum broke in, but nothing was super out of place. Comes back 4 hours later and asks me why I turned off the TV and his music. I asked him why he even left it all on, and why he even left the house. He said he wasn't going to be gone for long and just left it on. I told him you're wasting electricity and he doesn't even pay for it since his parents pay me. He just goes to his room and slams the door. The absolute last straw for me was when I get a call from my credit card provider asking me if I meant to spend $5,000 today, and I told him that all I bought was a coffee today. This little prick had stolen my credit card, went to Vegas, and started buying bottles. So I put a stop on my card, report it stolen, and make sure the next time he uses it, the police are notified. He eventually gets arrested for stealing, and since it was over $5,000, it's grand larceny. His parents are begging me and my parents to bail him out and that he will repay everything with interest, but my parents are on my side, and clearly this little emperor needs to learn a lesson. The next day I hired 2 guys to empty out his room all into the dumpster. As I'm bringing stuff out, something falls out of his desk. Little tiny bags of white powder, and the drawer was full of cash. This fool has been selling drugs too. I called the cops and told them the story. They confirmed with the LVPD that my story was true. They were very sympathetic to me about the crime this guy was getting in trouble for and how it was increasing dramatically. Not only that he was guilty of a crime in Nevada, but now in California as well. I gave the cops all of his belongings, and over the next few days, they updated me on even more crimes he's committed. Apparently his computer had conversations between him and minors and him asking for indecent things. There were conversations between him and his friends on wanting to plan a murder. He had 4 other phones and dozens of credit cards belonging to other people, so he was doing identity theft as well. By the time the cops were done, they were astonished, and the kid was basically looking at 20 plus years in federal prison. And you know what? The weird thing was that his parents weren't broke. They were very well off and provided everything to him. He never needed money but still sold drugs and did identity theft for no good reason aside from maybe being bored or something. My parents no longer speak to his parents, but they were very ashamed of their son and paid me back for all of the grief. Last I heard, he's still in prison till this day and will be deported when he gets out. A pharmacist pockets my mom's medicine and gets publicly humiliated. So my mother takes Adderall, which if you don't know is a drug that people with ADHD use to calm down and focus. But people do use it to study, focus, or get some kind of high. It's called illegal speed sometimes. My mom has pretty harsh ADHD, and it's pretty important for her to get the exact dose, which she usually gets about 30 pills a month. I was about 14 at the time, and when she got her prescription filled one day, it was short. There was something like 20 pills instead of the usual 30. We thought it was probably just a mistake, so we called the head pharmacist, who we are family friends with since his son and I were classmates, and he said he would get us the rest of the prescription, and tell the staff to double check. No big deal, right? Probably just a mistake, so we brushed it off. Well, as it would have it, the same thing happened for the next 2 or 3 months with random amounts missing, and we noticed that the person filling the prescription was the same woman. A little later, my little brother was put on Adderall as well, but he was given a 15-day prescription. It was his first time on it, so they didn't give him a full month on the stuff. That day we get the prescription filled from the same woman, and as me and my father were walking out, my dad stops in the parking lot and counts the pills. You were supposed to get 15, but there were 9. Fucking bitch. my dad said. My dad's usually very calm and collected, but this stuff is expensive, and I guess it hit a boiling point. He looked at me and was like, "Don't be surprised if you hear an explosion." The store was pretty full and it was the weekend, so it was about 1 or 2 p.m. My dad walked up to the counter, cutting the long line, super red, and started yelling, "Hey, you fat ass, you only gave us 9 pills, we were supposed to get 15. The lady rolled her eyes and said in a condescending tone, "I'm pretty sure I filled yours correctly." My dad was livid and said, "Here, look for yourself. You might have to take off your shoes because you have the counter for 10, so you might need to use your toes and not just your fingers." A lot of people looked shocked and startled at this, and I was a little bit embarrassed. All the yelling got the attention of the head pharmacist, who came out to see how he could help. My dad explained that this again happened and he was pretty pissed. He made a remark, "Maybe you should check our pockets and see where it's all going." At that point, I saw a light bulb go off above my dad's head and said, "Yeah, how come you don't steal any of my medicine? Why is it that we only end up losing our Adderall, huh?" To my surprise, the manager turned around and told her to empty her pockets. She was like, "Oh my god, are you accusing me of stealing?" By this time, a small crowd had formed and people looked all shocked. The lady started pointing her finger at my dad, going off about this and that, and when she least expected it, the manager reached into her pocket, in her coat, and pulled out not only our missing pills, but a slew of others. Everyone was stunned, literally mouth open and speechless. The manager started going off, calling her a thief and a lowlife, the worst in society, finishing off with a, "You're fired and you can get the fuck out of my store. I know all the pharmacists in this city and I'll make sure you never get another job in this city." I don't know why exactly she was stealing, but if I had to guess, it was probably addiction or she was selling them for a profit. Either way, I remember thinking, bitch got what she deserved. Stealing medicine from people who need it, that's pretty low. Relentless bully who stole our stuff every day gets tricked into eating chocolate-covered dog turd. I never knew this sub existed, and I hope you enjoy this. When I was 7, 1981 in Sydney, I lived in a quiet street. There were 4 other kids my age, and we were all good friends. One day, this kid moves in. His name is Ronnie. He was 2 years older and a spoiled little brat. We had to walk past his house when going anywhere, the shop, the park, school, etc. He was hard to avoid. His bedroom window overlooked the street too. He immediately started bullying us, going through our pockets and school bags and taking everything he could. We were timid kids and he was extremely large. The guy's dad was also large and tattooed up, so I think our parents were a little afraid of them too. We would complain and our parents tried talking to his, but he'd deny everything and his parents believed him and actually told us to fuck off. So let's get into the revenge part. One Easter, my mother was making chocolates and we had an idea. We stole a little molten chalky in one of the plastic molds and placed a small fun-sized dog turd in it, put it in a friend's fridge and then wrapped it in colored foil. We strutted up and down in front of Ronnie's house until he came out. We had real chocolates too to make it seem legit. He predictably took the bait and demanded the chocolates or he'd bash us. We were all actually shit scared that we might get caught. But we only have one, Ronnie. He snatched it, unwrapped it, and stuck the whole thing in his mouth, then pushed me and called me a dumb wog. A few seconds later, he started dry retching. We pointed and laughed at him. "You're eating dog shit, you dumb." And then he started crying and throwing up, and then I kicked him in the balls. Someone pantsed him, and I don't remember who. It was a good day. He never fucked with us again. So how was your day, Reddit? Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed the video today, and if you did, let me know in the comments down below, and leave a like if you liked the video. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe, fam, because that's what you're supposed to do. And also, if you're new and old subscribers, make sure you hit that notification bell so you can get my uploads on time, anytime I upload, because usually it's not always Sunday or Saturday. Sometimes I just upload in the middle of the week. I don't know, I have free time. Now we gotta thank the Patreon supporters, that is Maria, Pro Cookie, Tatooine, Catherine, Simon Possum, Annie, The Caustic, and Haley. Thank you so much for your support. You make what I do a whole lot easier. And as always, stay zesty!